Hello and welcome to another Magic Duels gameplay. Today we're taking a look at a red-white tokens deck which features the enchantment Valor in Akros, which was requested by a lot of people. It's a 4-mana enchantment that says whenever a creature enters the battlefield under our control, all creatures we control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So this combines nicely with token generators, since then all our creatures will get +1/+1 multiple times, so they can deal lots of damage out of nowhere. So that's the idea behind the deck, but of course it's also functional without the enchantment in play. So let's get started here with our 1-drops, where we have a few copies of Fiery Impulse. We also have a decent amount of instants and sorceries in our deck to enable the spell mastery, so this can clear a path for our renown creatures, which we have a few of. We have 2 Relic Seekers, 2/2 Renown 1, so if he connects with the opponent he gets a +1/+1 counter and becomes renowned. And if he does become renowned, we can also search up our library for an equipment card and put it into our hand. And we have 1 equipment to go with the 2 Relic Seekers. And then we also have 4 Topan Freeblades, which is the other renown creature. So 2/2 Renown 1 and Vigilance instead of the equipment searching thing. So nice on offense and defense and goes well into an aggressive creature deck. Then we also have a few copies of Subterranean Scout, which combines nicely with the renowned creatures since they can become unblockable, so they can become renowned more easily. And also combines nicely with Valor and Akros, since we can give the 2-power creature unblockable before it gets the +1/+1 from Valor and Akros. So that all works nicely with each other. Then we get to the equipment, which we can search up with the Relic Seekers. Sigil of Valor, also Valor in its name, so we have to include it of course. But it's a 2-mana equipment, only 1 to equip, so pretty cheap. And whenever the equipped creature attacks alone, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each other creature we control. So this sort of acts like an exalted trigger for all our creatures in play. So we do have to be attacking with only 1 creature, but when we do have lots of tokens in play, then this can force a flyer through, for example, to still deal lots of damage without us having to lose any tokens to some bad blocks. So that's why the Sigil is in there. And of course it's sort of a freebie with the Relic Seekers. And then we also have 2 copies of Twin Bolt to clear away enemy tokens or to go to the opponent's face. Then we get to some of our token generators, the full amount of Dragon Fodder, just 2 red goblin tokens, but it's also a sorcery to enable spell mastery. Then Thopter Engineer, 1/3 that makes a Thopter tokens, but all artifact creatures we control will have haste, so goes nicely with subsequent Thopter tokens. Then we get to Ghirapur Gearcrafter, 2/1 that makes a Thopter token, so goes nicely with the Engineer. Then we also have Iroas' Champion, which is a 2/2 double striker. So this doesn't really synergize with the old token thing, but it's just another aggressive creature, and that also combines nicely with our Subterranean Scout, since double strike doesn't matter when it has to check the power. So this can deal 4 damage if it's unblocked, and with a Valor and Akros in play, it can deal lots of damage. And then we also have Kytheon's Tactics, which can give all our creatures +2/+1 until end of turn, and with Spell Mastery they get some other bonuses as well. But just being able to give all our creatures +2/+1 is quite nice when we have lots of tokens in play, especially if they have flying, since then they can't be blocked easily. Then Exquisite Firecraft, just as a removal/burn spell. And then probably the best creature in the deck, Pia and Kiran Nalaar, since they make 2 Thopter tokens. So with a Valor in Akros in play, it's 3 creatures that enter the battlefield at once. And then for our mana base, we have 7 plains, 8 mountains, 2 Clifftop Retreats, and then the important card here is Foundry of the Consuls, since it's another token generator. And our mana requirements, besides the Firecraft, Pia and Kiran, and Kytheon's Tactics, we don't need double white or double red in the early game. so we don't need all the colored mana in the world, so we can actually run the 2 Foundry of the Consuls, which make 2 Thopter tokens, and then also 4 Boros Guildgates. So that's a total of 23 lands for a pretty low curve deck, as you can see. Alright, so that's the deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Alright, let's take a look at our opener. We are on the play, and we have 4 lands, which is a little bit much, but we have a decent curve here of Dragon Fodder into a 3-drop. So yeah, I think I'll keep. Also, one of our lands is a Foundry, so we can make some tokens at some point. So if we draw a Valor in Akros, this hand is of course pretty awesome. But hopefully we can do some damage before we get to that. Alright, Pia and Kiran, we do need 1 more red mana for it, but not a bad draw. Let's make some tokens here and pass the turn. See what our opponent's up to. Alright, another forest into Visionary. Alright, so we'll have to sacrifice a token here to deal 1 damage, but I think that's fine. And here we have to decide if we want to play the champion or the Gearcrafter. I think I'm okay with playing the champion here, but let's attack first. Also want to make sure that this Visionary is gone before we play the Gearcrafter, because the Visionary could trade with our Gearcrafter, which is not what we want. So let's see if our opponent trades here. He does. So I think playing the champion here is fine. It's also good to keep token generators in our hand, so when we do have a Valor in Akros in play, then we can get multiple pumps. There's a fine balance between wanting to have lots of tokens in play and wanting to keep some token generators in hand to play afterwards, but it usually works out. Alright, another forest into another Visionary. So our opponent could have a pump spell here for single green. And given that he's mono green, he could easily have the Primal Bellow, which gives +1/+1 for each forest he controls. So if we would attack with the champion, our opponent plays a pump spell, gives this +3/+3, then these would still trade, which is not the end of the world. And then we just follow up with the Pia and Kiran. So yeah, let's just attack here. And of course, if he doesn't have the pump spell, then he probably trades here, or he could also chump to prevent some damage. Let's find out. Right, goes for the trade, so it takes 4. Which is fine, and now we get to play Pia and Kiran. Also want to make sure to keep the Foundry in hand for as long as possible, to play around land destruction, which some people do play in the green decks. So not in a bad spot here. There we go, there's the land destruction, taking out a plains. And ramping our opponent. So we're gonna have to deal damage as quickly as possible here before our opponent plays a giant creature. And that's not a bad draw. Alright, so we can attack, play Valor in Akros, and then next turn a Gearcrafter pumping our team should do the job. So yeah, let's attack. And Valor in Akros also powerful with double strike, since every +1/+1 is actually +2/+2. So even if our opponent plays a Faddy here, the pump from the Valor should do the job. Alright, I guess our opponent can make multiple blockers. And if he has enchantment removal, that could also be pretty good here. Alright, there we go, Reclamation Sage. blowing up the Valor in Akros, unfortunately. But we still have lots of creatures that can attack. Alright, Bone Splinters takes out Pia and Kiran, so we can't sacrifice our tokens anymore. But here we can simply attack with everyone. Our opponent likely chum blocks. And then play... we could play another token generator. Let's see, our opponent had a black mana, so could be holding a card like Languish in his hand and doesn't have the second black yet. But I think it's fine to play out a Gearcrafter since we have another one in hand. So if our opponent doesn't do anything too powerful over there, he's just gonna be dead next turn. Alright, double black, so is this a Languish? Another Reclamation Sage, so I don't think there's a Languish incoming, otherwise he would have done it in the reverse order. And Evo Leap. Alright, so our opponent can block and then sacrifice the Reclamation Sage. But it's still gonna take 4 at least. So let's attack. And put our opponent at 1. Alright, our opponent didn't leave up green mana, so couldn't actually sacrifice the creature to the evolutionary leap. So I don't think we play out anything else here, since if our opponent does draw Languish, we don't want to play out more stuff. And read the bones, our opponent has to pay 2 life, so that's gonna be the game. And let's move on to the next one. Alright, let's take a look here. So this hand's light on creatures, but we do have Thopter Engineer plus Valor, which is a nice combo, since then all our Thopter tokens will be quite deadly. Yeah, I think I'll keep it. Lead with Mountain. Turn 2 we have Twin Bolt, and then Engineer on 3. Hopefully Valor on 4, and then hopefully some more creatures to follow up. I guess I'll play the Clifftop Retreat and pass the turn. And hopefully we get to use the Twin Bolt. Opponent leads with Mountain into another Mountain. Perilous Mirror, alright. So we could wait on this Twin Bolt, since red decks tend to have lots of low toughness creatures. Also don't hate just taking out a mirror right now. Yeah, let's try and be mana efficient here. And get rid of the mirror. Take 2. And now play Thopter Engineer. And we did draw our 4th land, so we can play Valor next turn, and then Dragon Fodder will pump up all our creatures for 2, which is not bad. And if our opponent is mono red, he's gonna have a hard time removing the Valor. Alright, opponent is blue red, so blue red artifacts looks like. And Chief of the Foundry is a pretty decent creature here for the opponent, especially if he can follow up with a Whirler Rogue or Pia and Kiran. We can play the Gearcrafter and attack for 2 in the skies, but I think just playing Valor here has to be better. So we can play Valor and attack for 1. I guess we could have, before playing the Valor, attacked with both. Maybe our opponent doesn't block, fearing a pump spell. Alright, Evolving Wilds means no 4-drop for the opponent this turn, which is good for us. And are we gonna see a removal spell on the Engineer here? Twin Bolt. And I guess our Engineer survives. Alright, so let's play the Gearcrafter, which the token is gonna have haste. Everyone gets +2/+2. And we can attack with everyone. Next turn, a Dragon Fodder is gonna be quite good. Fiery Impulse is not gonna kill the Chief, unfortunately, since we only have one instant or sorcery in our graveyard. So we might have to play the Dragon Fodder next turn, then we'll have Spell Mastery, so then Fiery Impulse can take out the Chief. Alright, Artificer kills our Gearcrafter and attacks for 4, which is fine. And let's see, Twin Bolt. Interesting. I think we still just play Dragon Fodder here. No response. That's good. And attack for 6. And let's see. Opponent is at 5 life. Yeah, I think we wanna impulse the Chief here. I'm not sure what the best timing is, if we wanna wait or not. I think we can afford to wait. This might change our opponent's decisions. Alright, he's gonna play another Chief, so in response we want to make sure to kill the first one before it gets the bonus from the second one. And is he gonna attack? Alright, looks like he's had enough. As we draw Iroas' Champion, which can pump all our creatures. And didn't even need the double white for Kytheon's tactics. But let's see, if we attack with everyone, our opponent blocks, takes 4. Yeah. I think just attacking with the Thopter is fine here. As Twin Bolt will help us get lethal next turn. Even if he makes a bunch of blockers. Artificer takes out the Thopter token. And Mountain is not a Plains, but we can just attack with everyone. And unless our opponent has a Fiery Impulse for single red, we should be able to have lethal here. Alright, and 1 damage goes through, and Twin Bolt will get the job done. Alright, sweet. Let's move on to the next one. Alright, let's take a look. Yeah, I don't think we can keep this one lander. This is not ideal since we're missing white mana. But if we do draw white mana, this hand is pretty awesome. Yeah, let's keep it. It's risky and can easily backfire. But even any other third land lets us cast Gearcrafter and Engineer. So even if we miss on the white mana, it's not the end of the world. And we got super lucky. So now we're gonna easily win this game, of course. Topan Freeblade on turn 2. And let's see if our opponent has a blocker. He does, and it's his own Topan Freeblade. Alright, we do not draw a removal spell for the opposing Freeblade, but I think our opponent is likely to block here, which is fine. And then we're gonna follow up with an Iroas champion. And then next turn we can go Guildgate into Engineer and then play Gearcrafter. So green-white, a Renown, Auramancer, not getting back any aura, so our opponent likely has a pretty major aura sub-theme, otherwise he wouldn't play Auramancer. Playing Engineer I think is better than playing Topan Freeblade here. So let's play it main phase 1, so our token can attack. Go to combat. And let's see if our opponent blocks or not. He doesn't, so likely has some enchantments he wants to put on this Auramancer. Pause a turn. 4 mana, Wild Instincts, alright. It's gonna take out the champion and can attack for 4 if he wants to. And he does. So if we draw land next turn, that would be pretty awesome, so then we can play Gearcrafter plus Freeblade. Otherwise, alright, there we go. So make sure to play the Gearcrafter main phase 1 so the token can attack. And given that our opponent has no mana up, we might as well just play everything out, so our turn goes by faster. And next turn this Kytheon's Tactics is going to be pretty awesome. And if we draw one more land, we can even activate the Foundry. Alright, Heliod's Pilgrim for the opponent. Let's see what it's gonna get. Could be a Nimbus Wings to give the Auramancer flying. Alright, there it is. And does our opponent play the Nimbus Wings right now, or is he... Alright, he does. So it's got a 3/4 flyer here, which is not bad. And it's gonna stay on defense, which is wise. And we draw another land. So let's see, if we play the Tactics right now, our opponent only has one good block available. And we would get in for probably 3, 6, plus another 4, 10, 13, yeah. This seems like a decent spot to play the Tactics. Otherwise we could make 2 hasty Thopter tokens, but I like playing the Tactics more. And let's send them in there. And see how our opponent blocks. It's unlikely that our opponent gets to kill the Engineer here. So that means that the 2 Thopter tokens next turn are gonna still have haste, which is relevant. Alright, so we don't lose any creatures, and I don't think we need to play out this land, so we'll just pause a turn with our opponent at 2 life. And Solemn Offering is gonna gain our opponent some life back. Alright. So the game's not over yet. Fiery Impulse, but no Spell Mastery. So let's see, if we activate the Foundry of the Consuls here, we'll have 2 more tokens. Let's say our opponent blocks here, then he still takes a lethal. Yeah, let's just go for it. Attack with everyone. And unless our opponent has a relevant spell here, I think we get there. Alright, on to the next one. Alright, let's take a look. This is an easy mulligan. Well, still no lands. Alright, this one we can keep. Not the best hand ever, but at least it's got some potential. Alright, Relic Seeker's not a bad draw, so we could lead with Mountain to keep up Fiery Impulse, but I think playing the Guildgate's better here, so we can make sure we play a 2-drop next turn and then the champion on 3. Blue-red. So could have all sorts of removal spells. Let's play our Relic Seeker here and hope it survives. If it does, alright, it doesn't. Twin Bolt kills it. Otherwise, next turn we could have also played Scout plus Impulse if our opponent played the blocker. But now our champion's more likely to survive. Alright, Chief of the Foundry. We could still kill that in combat if we combine First Strike plus Impulse. Just gonna play out the champion here, I think. Could play Gearcrafter to try and bait out another removal spell. But I think we need to get the champion going. And our opponent only 3 cards left in hand, so it's not super likely he has another Twin Bolt. Fourth land, Whirler Rogue. Alright. So, gonna hit us for 2. We could trade here. But I think we wanna keep our champion around. Alright, Firecraft is not bad. I think we play Scout here, targeting the champion. And attack for 4. And then we can block the Chief with our Scout and then finish it off with an Impulse. And this may also mean our opponent doesn't want to attack with the Whirler Rogue. Alright, Foundry of the Consuls. Everyone attacks. And I think this is the play. So we take 6. And Fiery Impulse. End of turn. But a Disperse is gonna save the Chief, but at least he can't replay it this turn. Another Erosis Champion. So if we play Champion, attack for 4, opponent replays Chief, attacks us for at least 4 in the skies. It's not great, but we do have a Firecraft next turn to kill the Chief. And I don't think Gearcrafter is better here. So let's attack. 1 unknown card left for the opponent. Play another champion, which can at least block the Whirler Rogue. Another land. Replays the Chief. And an attack for 4. So now let's see. Yeah, I think we just Firecraft the Chief here. That works, and yeah, attack with both. Opponent takes it. So that might mean he has his own Exquisite Firecraft next turn to deal lethal damage. If not, we have this Subterranean Scout, which can make one of our champions unblockable. So an attack for 4. Alright. I think we go for it. Sweet. Go to combat. Just attack with this one. Alright, sweet. I wanna thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed this gameplay, and as always, have a nice day.